One of the biggest hurdles for people recovering from mental illness is getting a job. But in Victoria, 2 cafes are helping people do just that. And they're doing so well, a franchise has been created, as Cheryl Hall reports.
A bit of a blur, some of it. What I can remember was hard yards a few years ago, for quite a while. I used to exist and now I've got a life. Things have turned around and it's been wonderful.
John Spencer is a changed man. At 43, he's holding down a job and living a productive life for practically the first time. He's overcome 2 decades of schizophrenia and he puts his recovery down to this place, the Madcap Cafe.
I hadn't worked since I was 18. I used to sleep a lot, like up to 20 hours a day. I was very unhealthy, most physically and mentally. Every day was just about getting through the day.
John Spencer's life has been turned around by the brainchild of Anthony Cheeseman. After 2 suicides in his family and a younger sister who suffered brain damage during a minor operation, he came up with the idea of a cafe to help get people with a mental illness back into the workforce.
They feared that when they went for a job interview, they didn't want to disclose their illness, because if they told the person, they were fearful of not getting the job. And if they didn't tell them and they got the job, what would happen if they had an anxiety attack?
With the support of the Eastern Region Mental Health Association, his first cafe in Dandenong grew into a second at Fountain Gate in Narre Warren. Now this one at Westfield in Geelong is the first franchise taken up by Pathways, a support and rehabilitation service.
The goal was to have a social inclusion, well, we called it a social inclusion franchise. There is no model like this in Australia. When people come into the cafe, they do a 6 to 9 month traineeship. The goal is to transition them into open employment. I always call it it's like your pit crew with the Formula 1 team. You might be the driver, but you don't survive unless you've got your pit crew around you.
John Spencer was first diagnosed with schizophrenia when he was a teenager.
If you saw footage of John at his young sister's wedding, he was almost, you would call him catatonic. He couldn't move on his own. You had to direct him from one place to another. He couldn't have a conversation.
John's mother, Diane Spencer, says it took years to get him on the right medication, but it was the cafe that made all the difference.
For him, the big step was from coming out from the back doing the dishes into the social area of the job, and that was just a gentle process.
It was like baby steps to get here, and now I've been here for 18 months and I'm not looking back.
The cafe is a model mental health expert Patrick McGorry would like to see replicated around Australia.
It was a real inspiration to meet John last year, and I've been thinking about him ever since, because he's a wonderful example of what could happen for so many thousands more Australians affected by serious mental illness who have been just thrown on the scrap heap of the DSP and on the verge of homelessness, and like John.
Patrick McGorry says people with mental illness are marginalised and isolated. Rebuilding their skills is essential.
The Madcap Cafe is one avenue, a fantastic example of what could be much more widespread. Most people do tend to recover if they get the right sort of treatment, even with schizophrenia. But you never know until people are given, the right exposure to treatment and the right vocational opportunities, what is going to happen. How many more Johns are out there? I would say many thousands around Australia.
Anthony Cheeseman knows firsthand that would affect many lives.
But I think that the important part is it's just not the person's life you're changing, it's their whole family. Like my sister now has a job as a result of what I do, and she works, but it's not her life that's changed, like it's my mum's life. And John, if you talk to John's mum, Diane, she'll tell you that their whole family has changed because of it.
The boy that we knew was in there has finally been able to come out, because he's such a personable man. He's just got something, an air about him that attracts people, and people just instantly like him. He's got a real, a way about him.